Greetings, vinyl community. Today I'll be talking about Sun Ra. I've been reading a book about Sun Ra, A Pure Solar World, Sun Ra and the Birth of Afrofuturism by Paul Youngquist. As you can see, I don't have the physical book. I'm reading this on the iPad using the Kindle app, but it's still a good read. I do have a physical book about Sun Ra on hand, which is Space is the Place. This is a really great book full of information about Old Sunny by John Sved. So if you want more information about the gentleman from Saturn, those are both good places to start. But I've just recently picked up three relatively recent archival releases on the Modern Harmonic label, Modern Harmonic having made pretty much a cottage industry out of releasing archival material by Sun Ra. Sun Ra was like Jimi Hendrix. He had the tape rolling all the time. So years and years after his death, there's always stuff coming out, except that Jimi Hendrix had a recording career of about 4 years, and Sun Ra had a recording career of about 34 years. So 35 maybe. So there's rather a lot of Sun Ra to be had. And the very newest, this just came out on the Modern Harmonic label, is Excelsior Mill, which is a recording of Sun Ra performing on New Year's Eve at a pizza parlor that has a pipe organ, a Wurlitzer theater organ. So the whole big thing with literal bells and whistles. That's where, I assume that's where the expression came from, because this is not just sound coming through the pipes of the organ. It has controls where you can make bells, where you can have percussion of various sorts going on that you're controlling from the manuals. And Sun Ra does take full advantage of that on this recording. It's 2 side-long pieces. Side 1 is Beyond Hiroshima. There was a previous recording from these tapes released called Hiroshima during Sun Ra's lifetime. And side 2 is Excelsior. I'm not sure how literally to take the information, but apparently Excelsior Mill was the name of the venue, which was a pizzeria at the time of this recording, but it was originally an actual mill where they supposedly produced Excelsior, as in wood shavings for packing material. I'm surprised, shall we say, to learn that that's something that's actually produced rather than just a side product of woodworking. But here we have the purpley vinyl. Yes, both sides are purple. How about that? It's funny how that works. It's very, very wild work. On side 2, you do have a section where Sun Ra really gets into the bell setting and is sort of producing some ice cream truck music with that. But as the title Beyond Hiroshima implies, this is really explosive and violent and dark music for the most part. But it does pass through a lot of different, I'm not sure I can even say moods, but textures and ideas and whims on Sun Ra's part. So that's the brand new release, even newer than the one they just came out with on Record Store Day, on the same label that I showed with the pink elephants on parade. This is a release from 2022, Prophet. And this is titled not because Sun Ra himself was a prophet, as indeed he was, but because he was experimenting with the Prophet VS synthesizer. And if I can find the little insert in here, they've very cleverly included the liner notes on a folder that looks like the advertising flyer for the Prophet synthesizer, and the actual liner notes are on the back of this. You notice the setting there is the Sun Ra setting. So the vector synthesis synthesizer. And this does although it does have the full Sun Ra orchestra lineup, unlike the Excelsior Mill album, which is just solo organ, even though it was recorded when it's a little unclear how this worked, because the full orchestra did have a gig at that venue, but the recording there is just solo organ. This one, he does have a full complement of the orchestra personnel, including the stalwart Marshall Allen on saxophone, who just turned 100 years old, John Gilmore on tenor sax, Elo Omo on bass clarinet, and others, June Tyson on vocals, and other familiar names from the orchestra. But he's really featuring his own keyboard work, improvising at the synthesizer and experimenting with the various settings, along with percussion. There's a real emphasis on percussion, particularly the work of James Jackson on the ancient Egyptian infinity, lightning, and thunder drum. The first half of the first track, which is a 16.5-minute piece, probably less than half, but quite a long stretch at the beginning, is dominated by the sound of the sample and hold filter. And what sample and hold is in a synthesizer module or a synthesizer setup, it's basically a source of randomly fluctuating voltage that can be applied to different destinations. And it's commonly used on the filter. And to get an idea of what that sounds like with the filter randomly popping up and down to various levels, think of Relay by The Who, or the section in Emerson, Lake and Palmer Carnival 9 where they sing, "Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends," with this warbling sound in the background. That's the synthesizer being filtered by a sample and hold voltage. But the second half of the piece has Sun Ra finding a sound similar to a Hammond organ and playing something that actually resembles conventional jazz. It's the most conventionally jazzy thing on any of these records. Eventually this gives way to Infinity Excursion, which is a solo for that ancient Egyptian infinity, lightning, and thunder drum, joined by some bowed bass. On side 2, finally we really get into the full orchestra joining in, but it's still starting off with an emphasis on the drums, on the Prophet at play, and then the Prophet returns, which again is a more conventional keyboard sound, with Sun Ra playing very more kind of ruminative, thoughtful, not so jazzy, but still more tonal form of music. And this is on clear yellow vinyl. And finally, this is an album that was released in 2017, Thunder of the Gods. And as Sun Ra was during his lifetime rather cavalier about where he would release different tapes, and he might couple a tape from one period with another tape from a completely different era on the same LP, and put that out on his famous celebrated Saturn label, probably in an edition of 75 copies, which are now impossibly rare. I don't own any of the Sun Ra Saturn pressings. I wish I did. I probably never will, but who knows? Who knows what the future may hold? I think Sun Ra knew what the future would hold, but there we go. Anyway, this is a recording of the full orchestra from the early 70s. This is probably recorded at Slugs in New York City. That's the piece on side 1, the 23.5-minute Calling Planet Earth, We Will Wait for You. It's a live club recording, features unaccompanied solos by Sun Ra on the organ, followed by Ilo Omo on the bass clarinet, and I'm not sure if I even am pronouncing his name right. And eventually this goes into a passage of Sun Ra playing the Mini Moog synthesizer. Sun Ra received from the Moog people one of the very first Mini Moog synthesizers produced in the early 70s. And I think this was loaned to him as a demonstration model, and Sun Ra assumed it was a gift and sort of made off with the thing. And it's heard to amazing effect on this record because he just makes absolutely apocalyptic noises with the synthesizer deeper into the recesses of this track. But it also features the kind of cheerful outer space chanting and ditties that we often get on Sun Ra albums. Side 2 is a completely different kettle of fish. It's music from the period when Sun Ra made an album called Strange Strings. And what he did was he went out and bought a bunch of stringed instruments, like ukuleles and koras and violins for the band members, and passed them out and said, play. And this is completely unscripted music where the band members don't know how to play the instruments they've been given. And Sun Ra called this a study in ignorance. So as I say, he put the results on an album called Strange Strings, which I do not have, but it is apparently due for an imminent re-release, so that's something to look forward to. But meanwhile, side 2 of this album is material from those same sessions. 5-minute 41-track titled Moonshots Across the Sky, and the 13.5-minute title track Thunder of the Gods. Doesn't that sound like something out of Led Zeppelin? It's very textural because the band doesn't really know the instruments, and it's not done with a rhythm backing. So there's a lot of just sustained notes and textures to be heard. There's that lightning yellow vinyl, as they bill it. I think that's more orange, but what do I know?
In some far-off place, many light years in space, we'll wait for you. In some far-off place, many light years in space, we'll wait for you.
very much got Sun Ra on the brain because of the books that I've been reading, so I'll probably be picking up some more Sun Ra albums very soon and maybe make a part 2 of this, or maybe just mix them in with the other LPs as they appear, like I usually do. So that's all for now. Thanks very much for watching. Be well, and I will talk with you again soon.